What's going on, everyone? I am here with Calvin Wayman, and we are here. This is one I've been looking forward to for a while. Cooking and Conversations. Let me give you a quick rundown on Calvin, and then we'll talk about what he's making because that's what I'm really, really excited about. Calvin went from being an employee to building his own business. He went from 53K in debt and documented his journey to becoming debt-free. He went from never even running a marathon before to running a 50-mile ultra marathon, which just blows my mind. He was overweight and has lost over 50 pounds. And when you see what he's making today, it's even more impressive. And he had dreamed of one day speaking on stage with some of his mentors. And since then, he shared the stage with people like Brendan Bouchard, Lewis Howes, Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, and even more. So he's been there, done that, and he's still doing really cool things. Calvin, what's up, man?
Dude, I'm hungry because as of right now, it's the afternoon, and I've saved my breakfast just for this. So I'm excited.
I love it. I want to tell people a quick story really about us because it's funny. When we first met, you were on the podcast and we recorded, and those episodes will be released soon. We recorded a couple episodes of the podcast. We did an intro call before we recorded. And when I got on the line and you got on the line, we did a Zoom video call. You were actually making breakfast while we talked. And I watched you making hash browns and bacon. And I'm thinking as we're talking, this is like a dry run for Cooking and Conversations, so it only makes sense.
And I had no idea what Cooking and Conversations was, and I was like, that would be kind of a fun show. I like how there's like hot ones or there's some sort of distraction. You're like, well, actually.
Yeah, and I love breakfast food. It's one of my favorites. I will eat it for any meal of the day.
Yep.
And it's like if I go to a place and they give the menus and it says 24-hour breakfast, that's what I'm ordering. Like there's no question.
Yeah.
So I love that about this. I love that idea. Let's give people a little bit of background about yourself. I know you're predominantly, you love to speak. You're an author. You're a coach. Just give us a quick rundown on your story, and then we can kind of get into breakfast.
I always hate this question, honestly, because I'm always evolving. And so the latest thing that I call myself is a trier and a messer upper. And that's kind of what I think entrepreneurship is. I just like to do different things, new things. Right now I'm working on my second book. My first one came out a few years ago, Fish Out of Water. And that's been the biggest thing. And just adapting a little bit because of COVID. I was planning on this being a big year for speaking, and I was able to squeeze one last one in right before everything closed down. But just pivoting with seeing if we can do something virtual or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I consider myself just a regular dude that's just trying things and seeing what can come from it.
Another thing that I think, I didn't read this in your bio, but is super unique about you is you have 44 siblings.
That is the one unique thing that is quite different. Yes.
How do you remember all their names?
Aaron, Leroy, Pamela, Kleinheimer, like that. I'm good there because the analogy I always use is imagine you are a really big sports fan. If you're a really big sports fan, you're going to know your team. Yeah. Like if you really care. We were kind of like that. Like we had a family that was big enough for a sports team, but I was one of the older kids. So I was like the 11th kid. So I only had to memorize 10 people, which I got pretty quick. And then it's like we're getting a new player or two new players once a year. So you start to remember. Now, where I would be horrible, some of my siblings are great with this. I am a very bad brother when it comes to this, and that is when it comes to birthdays. I know many birthdays, but I don't even think I come close to 50% of all the birthdays of all my siblings, which is horrible. I have a general range like, oh, Joseph's is in the end of the year. The ones that are closest to me, like, oh, my brother David is exactly 2 months older than me, so that makes it easy. September 1st, stuff like that. But oldest brother is like in February, but I don't know the exact date. Like I'm not that good when it comes to birthdays.
That's a lot. And my family, when I look at like extended family, because I'm very close with like aunts, uncles, cousins, that whole thing, I guess there's about the same amount. There's like 35, 40 of us after my cousins started having kids. And
then you're going to remember all their names.
Yeah, I know all of them. I don't know their birthdays. I have to always revert to the calendar or ask other relatives, like when's their birthday or or Facebook. Facebook's a good one for birthdays. So thank you, Facebook. We're on Facebook right now. But yeah, so very cool. We'll get more into what you're up to these days and your message and all of those things as we go through this. But why don't you tell us real quick, what are we making today?
Okay. What we're making today is a classic, but it's very special to my heart because I, like you, very much love breakfast food. And today we'll see how it goes, but it's like a slow perfection. So that I've learned over time. So it's just simple: bacon, eggs, hash browns. Super, super simple. And I'm actually going to use one of your suggestions. We were the same on one way we cook bacon, and that is it's called bacon, so you should bake it, versus what most people do on the stovetop. But I'm going to try the temperature that you suggested, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I love that. I love bacon in the oven because it's just a more even cooking, number one, and it makes less of a mess, number two. And that low and slow method, with anything that has a lot of fat, typically it just gives the best product. Here, let me.
Okay.
Let's see. Do you want to add the other camera angle?
Actually, see, just a sec. So this is the setup. So we've got the bacon already set up right here. Just some hash browns. There's a special way to do that, and of course, got the eggs there. So yeah, we already got.
And that's how I do my bacon too. I usually put down a layer of foil just to kind of not have such a mess.
If you want to use a pan, we'll just use that for the hash browns, and then
perfect
on a sheet right there. That's the way to go. So yeah, it's going to be rocking.
Do you have a special egg pan that you use just for eggs?
I need to. The one that I'm going to be using today, I honestly don't love. It has like the shape, but it's not non-sticky enough. And the way I do eggs, which I'll show in a little bit, I'll just explain. What I've learned to make this meal amazing is to not mess with it too much. Like the key to make the perfect hash browns is one flip. Like that is what I have found, to have them crispy, to have the awesome texture on the outside and the inside, is to do one flip. With eggs, I try to do no flipping. So put them in the pan, cover the lid so it cooks it, but then you put those eggs on the crispy hash browns. So good. And the same thing with the bacon. Like I want to put it in the oven, maybe check it with minimal flipping. Sometimes I need to because one side cooks a little bit faster, but very, very minimal flipping of anything. And it just seems like the fat is really delicious on the bacon. The eggs are like soft, but not too runny, not cooked too much. And then the perfect texture for hash browns too, by not messing with them.
I love it.
That's the game plan.
Yep. And the way that I do the bacon too is it's much the same as you. I put it in the oven, but I'll rotate the pan 90 degrees halfway through.
So you're not flipping it.
I don't flip it. I rotate the pan.
How long does it cook in your oven at 350? Because I normally do 450. I'm trying 350 today.
Yep.
I want to try a little more.
Typically, I'll check it every 15 minutes, but I'll definitely set the timer for at least 25. Then I flip it, and then usually it takes around 40 to 50 minutes max. That's usually how long it takes at 350 degrees. And that, I mean, that's the best. The
bacon's going to take the longest, so I'm actually going to put it in right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's get it in.
Yeah, let's get the bacon in there.
Oh, that bacon looks good. Is that thick cut bacon?
Yeah, we got some thicker cut.
That's my favorite.
Some fat on there. So I'm super excited for that. And I guess while I'm at it, so the hash browns are a little bit frozen, but what I normally do is just put it in the pan a little bit and then mix it up. So I'm going to go ahead and get that going.
So those are still frozen, those hash browns?
Yes, these are still frozen.
You probably hear my puppy in the background. He loves breakfast too.
And then
I like the lid technique. That's going to help with those frozen potatoes. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, and so what I'll end up doing is flipping them in a few minutes. But yeah, those are going to be good.
So how long? No, your hash browns. I saw you put them in the pan, the frozen potatoes. You didn't put any oil, any butter. You just put them straight into the pan.
Not yet. So what I normally do is I do this for them to thaw. And Then after they are soft, I'll usually put something in it like butter. Today, one of my favorite ways to have hash browns is to actually use bacon grease instead of. So I'm going to use.
That's a good little hack there.
So bacon grease instead of the, bacon grease instead of butter sometimes adds a nice little touch to it.
I like that. Now, what do you cook your eggs in? I know we'll get to that, but
sometimes I'll do something similar where it's bacon grease, but usually just butter makes it pretty easy. So, I'll use this pan for eggs and put the lid on it so that the whole thing can cook without needing to flip it. And just pull it out and put it on top of the hash.
I like that you don't flip your eggs. I like that because I think a lot of people, they try to do the flip and they try to toss them around and then they end up breaking the yolks and it's just too complicated. I mean, yeah.
In fact, I know this already had this pan going, so this is already getting a little warm. So I'm going to turn those a little bit.
Nice. So have you ever done your own hash browns from scratch, like from the whole potato?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was almost going to do that today with something I've been playing with, but because hash browns are something that I know a lot of viewers use, and it's just something you can get out of the bag, I thought I did it this way. Because one of the other things that I've been really falling in love with lately is just actually red skin potatoes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I've been doing a lot of red skin potatoes lately. It's good. It's a little bit better for you. And I like them even more than regular hash browns, actually.
So you use so when you use Redskins to make hash browns, what's the process like?
So I'm not using them for actual hash browns. I guess what are they called? Like home fries, where I'm just cubing them. So I'll just take a knife, just even leave the skin on and everything if it looks good, and then I'll just chop it into cubes. And then similar process. Put it in the pan, put some bacon grease in there, mix it up, and then try to not have to flip it except once. So bacon grease it, season it, and then once it is cooked on one side, give it a flip, go from there.
Do you put anything else in it? Do you put like peppers, onions, anything like that in it?
I have, but just I've done both of those, peppers and onions. But for a quick meal like this, I just like to keep it super simple. It's almost ready for the bacon grease, actually, and the seasoning. Yeah, I think this is ready. This is ready for the seasoning and the bacon grease.
So what kind of seasoning are we using?
I'll show you. So a few things I like to do. Sometimes just super simple salt and pepper, okay? But what I also am a fan of is seasonal. I don't know if you use this, but this is also really good for pork chops. So I'm just going to give a little bit of seasoned feta.
It's good with rice. It's good with French fries, popcorn.
I've never done it with any of those things. I've only done it with food.
Try it out. It's delicious.
And then, of course, we're going to use onion powder.
Yep. Man. I love hash browns. Here's the thing with hash browns I've found. Whenever you go to like a diner or you go somewhere and you get hash browns, if it's really busy, the hash browns usually aren't as good because they rush them and they're not crispy.
I agree.
In order to get really good hash browns at like a diner where they're cooking them on a griddle, you have to go when it's not so busy and they actually take the time to make them and make them good.
Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to have bacon grease this early from the bacon I'm currently cooking. So, because I'll often do that. I'll just use the exact same bacon grease that I'm cooking with. But I cooked some bacon yesterday, so I have a little bit of left over here that we're going to use. So,
how many times a week do you make bacon?
It depends. I actually like giving myself a little bit of a challenge, and I'll sometimes go long periods of time without it. It's one of my very favorite things. So the more common thing is I just can't have it if I had it yesterday. I'm breaking the rule today, so I cook it 2 days in a row. But I'm also going to, like I said, I'll be doing a challenge where I go like a month or 2 months without having it.
That's hard. I had bacon yesterday too.
Oh, yeah?
That's one of my favorites, and my puppy too. He loves bacon. Bacon changed his life. I still have a picture of him. The first time he ever saw bacon, I actually had a party. I invited friends over, and I made a bacon wrapped pork loin.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and I laid the bacon out, you know, in a sheet, and I was pounding it so that I could lay the pork loin and wrap it. And as soon as I laid it on the counter, he came over and stood up on his hind legs, and his eyes got real big because he could smell it, but he didn't quite know what it was. And I had to take a picture of that. I still have it. I think it might be on Instagram. It changed his life forever when he discovered bacon.
It changed my life too. So your dog and me have something in common. So there's something that you guys aren't getting, and I feel really bad about this, and that is the smell.
Oh,
so
sure.
Right now, with the bacon grease and those 3 seasonings, the seasonal with the garlic powder and the onion powder, it is starting to already smell so good. You can kind of already see this, I think, on the camera. I'm just flattening it, making it round. I like to do that just so that it looks kind of pretty.
I like that.
And once this is done, then I'll just actually open.
Now, we used to make a thing in the restaurant, and they're actually a very classical potato preparation called roasty potatoes, ROSTI.
Okay.
And very similar to what you're doing there, except the pan would be small so that the round was in the pan, like not, you know what I mean? It was the size of the pan. And you would take it and you would continuously pour melted butter around the outside so that it continued to brown underneath. And then you would do 2 of them at once. Then you would put a layer of like boursin cheese, but basically what it is it's a really soft whipped, almost like a cream cheese with garlic and herbs in it. We would layer that in the center and then put the 2 together. And then when we would cut it into a wedge, it would be like 2 hash browns with cheese in the middle.
Say that one more time because I might want to try this.
Yeah. So you get like a smaller nonstick pan that's the size of what you want, and you put melted butter in it, and then you pack in the hash browns. And as they're cooking, you ladle or spoon melted butter around the outside so that it's constantly
not directly
browning.
on the hash browns, but on
on them, around the edges, so that it goes down into the pan. And then, so you want to get it really crispy, like a nice golden brown all the way around the edges. Then, when they're done, when they're really golden brown, you put a layer of cheese, but you do 2 at the same time. So you have 2 different pans, or you can do one, flip it onto a sheet pan upside down so the lip's not there. So you turn a sheet pan like you did your bacon in upside down, put a layer of plastic wrap on it so it's not sitting on the metal. Take the pan, flip it onto the tray so that it's sitting there. Then make another one. Then put a layer of cheese, and then take the one that's on the pan and slide it on top.
So you're almost making a hash brown cheese sandwich.
Yeah. And then we would cool it so that it like solidified. Then we would cut it into wedges, and then you reheat it slowly in the oven, and then we would serve it with steak or something like that. But the cheese is very savory. So like I said, it's like a garlic herbed cream cheese almost that's in the middle. But then you have these really buttery, crispy hash browns on the outside. And when you're adding all that clarified butter, that melted butter to it, it just makes it so rich and delicious. It's one of my favorite things. Pain in the butt to make. And sometimes, like when you have it on a plate in a restaurant setting, you'd have to make like 10 of them so that you had enough. But so delicious.
That I didn't know about this a little bit sooner because as of right now, I actually, believe it or not, everything I'm cooking right now is perfectly within the realms of my diet. I'm following Whole30. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Sweet. As long as it's a any whole food, you can eat it. Any fruit, any vegetable, any meat. So potatoes actually count in there, which is great. That's one of the reasons I did it, is because I love potatoes, and that gives me my carb fix. You're supposed to have like a natural bacon. You can have bacon, and then of course you can have eggs. And I just barely came off of a 3-week food binge where I could eat whatever I wanted. And I was having a whole lot of cheese. Cheese is one of my go-tos, just a lot of quesadillas and stuff like that. But I'm off of that now. Have you heard of 75 Hard?
I have not.
It's by a guy named Andy Frisella. It seems like it's
I know who Andy Frisella is.
Okay. So Andy Frisella came up with it. In fact, he just dropped a book about it called 75 Hard, like within the last month. But 75 Hard, it looks like a fitness challenge, but it's really a mental toughness challenge because you're doing 2 workouts a day, okay, 45 minutes each. One of them must be outside, okay? And this is for 75 days straight. So 2 workouts a day. You have to drink a gallon of water. which I'm getting really close. This is already just today. My gallon's almost gone.
Nice.
A gallon of water, read 10 pages of a good book, of a nonfiction book, something that you can learn from, and then take a progress pic. So those 5 tasks, 2 workouts, 45 minutes each. One of them must be outside. Sticking to a diet and no cheat days. 1 gallon of water, read 10 pages, and a progress pic. So how the challenge goes is you do that 7 days a week. You have 0 days off, no cheat meals. You do that for 75 days. If you fuck up, can we say the F-bomb? If you mess up, then you have to go back to day 1. So it looks like a physical challenge, but it's a mental toughness challenge. I've done it before and I love it. And that's what I'm on right now. And thankfully this is within the realm of what I can do.
Well, I'm glad this is, because I don't think that I would want to do the challenge if you couldn't eat bacon, eggs, and hash browns.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's like
what made me think of it is, so I'm not having cheese during this time. But what's even crazier is I'm probably not even gonna have cheese till 2021, believe it or not.
Wow.
Because what I decided, since I've done 75 hard before, and I love how I feel on it, just because you start your day and you just do the hardest thing right away, and it just makes everything else in life feel way easier.
What's the hardest thing for you?
Well, of all those tasks, to me, it's the group of them. And I've had different moments where obviously exercising twice a day can be tough, but focusing and reading, actually physically reading, you can't do audiobooks. Audiobooks is what I normally do. So actually having to physically read. And then there's another task that I put on it that is not part of his program, but I personally am doing it because I want the challenge. And that is 30 minutes of meditation. Because I don't know, maybe it's entrepreneurship, maybe it's how I'm wired, but sometimes life gets crazy on the roller coaster. Yeah. And I just when I did 75 hard before, it makes me feel like that my brain is a dog to be tamed, and I need to do something for it so that it's not going wild with all the ups and the downs. And this is just one of those things that it makes me feel really anchored. It really does. I did it earlier this year, and I don't think I was ever happier. And so I was like, I'm going to do it again. But this is why I said I'm not going to have cheese till the end of the year. I decided that I'm going to do it. Well, at first I said, I'm going to do it for the rest of the year. But then I realized there was like 179 days left, or 180 or whatever. I'm like, it's called 75 hard. I'll do it for 175 days instead of 75. So that's what I'm doing right now.
There you go. And you were telling me, I think we were talking the last time we talked about Ironmans.
Yes.
Those types of activities. And you said that there was someone that you knew that did like a ridiculous amount of Ironmans in a row. That kind of reminds me of this.
It's not somebody that I know, but he's pretty famous. The Iron Cowboy. He's done 50 Ironmans, 50 states, 50 days.
That's crazy.
And he's from Utah, where I'm from.
Amazing.
Probably right now.
Crazy, amazing. And that kind of reminds me of what you're doing, because, you know, that sounds like what you're doing right now is discipline at its finest. And I can see, like, as you're looking at the hash browns, which have me enhanced.
I think you might see what I look for, by the way, and hold that thought about because it's an important one. But I look to see if there's any crisping around the edges. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm starting to see it. So I know that these are ready to flip. These right now are ready to flip. So
now show me the flip.
Okay. I've never done it for performance, so we'll see how it goes. But I like to just scan, and what I like to see is if there was enough grease that it can move around, which it can, which is great. So now it's not getting stuck. So we'll just give this a shot. Bada bing, bada boom.
Nice.
Just like that, and then look at those beauties. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
You've done that before.
Those are perfect.
Awesome.
Yes. I want to eat them already. So
do you put anything on your hash browns aside from the egg? Like, I know some people use ketchup and sauces. Do you put anything on them?
Quite a variety, actually. So what I will normally do, well, I at least have the options. So I will show you, since we're talking about it while these cook. I would say these are my 4 go-tos. So one of the things I like to do with all this, and I'm probably going to do it when I start to eat, I like some salsa.
Yes.
And again, sometimes people don't like they don't like to mess with the stuff, but I like to try things and mix it up. So I like putting salsa on it. This might be a weird one. Sometimes I'll use mustard. Don't know if I'm going to do that today. We'll see. But here's a big one. I went to Thailand. And before Thailand, I did not like spicy food. But having Thai food just made me really like spicy food. So I really like sriracha. It's so good. I sometimes will do a little bit of each of these throughout the whole thing and not mix it all together, but have like different bites that have these with it. And then the good old fashioned tapatio, however you say it. So those 4, and you can see I've used it because the sauce is almost gone. Got a good amount down for, this is hot sauce. Really
I love sriracha.
And then that's being used too. So those are the things. I'm going to turn my thing because it's been like over 20 minutes.
Okay.
So turn the bacon.
How's it looking down there, by the way? Give us a little description.
I'll take you down there with me.
Okay, let's go look. That's looking nice.
What's happening? So what you normally do, so you say you just do a quarter turn.
Yeah, do like a 90 degrees. So what's in the back comes to the front. What's in the front goes to the back.
Ah, got it. So we're doing this.
Yep.
Isn't that a 180?
Yeah, you're right. That's a 180. I'm not a numbers guy, so. Not me. It's a 180.
So what were you saying about discipline?
Oh, yeah. We were talking about discipline, about like the Iron Cowboy, but I think what you're doing, like the Iron Cowboy blows my mind because I've been to Ironmans, and the fact that anyone can do more than one Ironman within like a month is crazy to me, let alone 50 days. But to do what you're doing, which is 5 different things, and to do it for 180 days or 175 days, however you're doing it, that is not a sample size. It's not like I'll do it for a few weeks. The thing that caught my attention about what you're doing is the fact that it's no days off.
No days off. If you mess up, you go back to day 1.
Yeah, that to me is like intense because like there are certain Sundays or whatever, or holidays that, I cheat. Most weekends, in fact, I cheat. Monday through Friday, I like to watch what I eat for the most part. I'll give myself a little leeway here or there. Now, the thing with me is the diet's the hardest part. Exercising, I'm fine with. I've 5 days a week, easy. I do it, but I don't do 90 minutes a day. I do like 45 to an hour.
Right.
Usually with weights.
That was pretty wild.
Cardio. And that's kind of my thing. So to do 90 minutes a day with no days off, the only fear I would have is overtraining and maybe injury or getting sick without any rest from physical activity.
That sounds like a very logical thing, especially up front. It's kind of like when people say, "Can you remember all your siblings' names?" type of thing. But then there's this. If you think about it for a second, first of all, I track it on the Whoop. So to address the overtraining, this will measure what's called my strain or stress on the body. It will also measure my recovery, which is how much I can put on my body that day. Now, your 45-minute workout, you don't have to kill yourself. One of your workouts, for example, could be yoga. The other workout could literally be walking outside, okay? Right now, so I want to challenge myself a little more week by week. And this is my first week on 75 hard. So the strain measures it on a number from 1 to 21. So, and it gets exponentially harder. 21 is like impossible. Like if I set my goal to get a strain for 21 for the day, then I get a warning that says nobody in the history of Whoop has ever hit 21 because it's having your peak heart rate for 24 hours straight. That's how you hit 21. Now I've hit 18. I actually almost hit 19 before, but I'm starting off at 12, which is totally doable. I get 12 in a good 45-minute workout. Then next week, I'm going to do 13. Then the week after that, I'll be 14, then 15, then 16, then 17. Then I'll probably do 18 and then drop back down to 12. With all that said, I already have 12 today. So you want to know what my second workout's going to be? A 45-minute stroll outside. So ending my day that way. So that's actually not that hard to do. And the other thing too is on Sundays, if I want to have the feel of a day off, I'll still work out twice. but I might do yoga and then walk. So I'm doing it. I still keep the habit, but I'm being smart with my actual recovery.
That's good because, now that you put it that way, when I think 45-minute workout, when you first said it, I was thinking like you got to have 90 minutes of all out, like, okay, I'm going to lift weights for 45 minutes. Then I'm going to go run like half pace to full speed, 45
I'm going to do
minutes.
something like that eventually, probably in the middle of it. But the other thing that's important is the workouts. The workouts can't be consecutive. They can't be back to back. They have to be at 2 separate times. That's part of the challenge.
So, well, how much time do you have to have in between to make them unconsecutive?
That's like an unspoken rule. It just needs to be clearly a break between them. So I usually do it morning and evening. These are done. So I'm going to just go ahead and slide these on. Yeah.
Those look really good.
They're going to be so good. In fact, I might do what I do all the time on cooking, which is just a little.
Yeah, please.
So freaking good.
So that happens to me at Thanksgiving, what you just did there, because I love Thanksgiving. It's probably my favorite holiday. And I cook every Thanksgiving for a bunch of people. Yeah, I make a huge spread. And what I'll find is as I'm making Thanksgiving, I'm tasting, eating. And then when it comes time to eat dinner, I usually don't sit down and like eat with everyone. I just graze because I've already done it all throughout the day. And I'm just like, and that's just how the holidays go. It's almost like when you spend all day cooking, like, and for me, when I make Thanksgiving, it's like a 3-day affair. It's not just cooking one day. Like
I've never cooked. My family's so big. I've never cooked Thanksgiving ever. I should, because I'm starting to do that. Want to do that more and more. In fact, I'll probably cook this year because I can have I won't have the rolls this year, which is going to be a little bit tough. But I could probably have some form of mashed potatoes. I can still have the turkey. So I'll make it work. But
yeah,
ham.
Yeah. But that's I love it. I mean, I like Thanksgiving because you have the structured foods that you have every year, but then it gives you a little bit of latitude. Like every year I know I'm making turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, gravy, turkey noodles. But then in between, now I can play a little bit and have like, what kind of vegetables are we going to do? Oh, and always sweet. There's always some kind of sweet potato too. And it's like, what kind of vegetable do you do? What kind of desserts are you going to put together? Are there any other starches so it gives you a little bit of latitude, but it gives you that structure. And then every year as you make it, you learn something new that you can apply to the following year.
Yeah.
So it gets better and better every year.
Sorry guys, I just can't.
No, please, we want you to eat during it. The only thing I dislike about this show is the fact that I don't get to eat the food.
I know.
That's the downside. Everything else I love though.
After COVID, we should do an in-person one, just like
we should do an in-person Thanksgiving type, like a mock giving.
You've heard of Friendsgiving, right?
Yeah.
I'd be down for that.
We could, for sure. Now let's talk a little bit about. Let's see here. So we got the hash browns are done. Bacon's rocking and rolling. We're going to do the eggs. How long does it usually take you to cook your eggs?
Not long.
Okay. Do you do them high heat? Get them like crispy on the bottom? Some people I know do them super high heat. Some people do them low and slow.
High. So this goes, I cooked my hash browns on 6.
Okay.
What my oven show, my stovetop shows. I'm going to do a little bit less than 6. So I try to not cook them too fast, actually. I want them to be cooked, but again, be soft so that when I eat them with the hash browns, it just has such an awesome texture this meal is actually really exciting. It really is. Like to have the crispiness of the hash browns, a little bit soft in there, a little bit of goo, but not runny with the egg, with the crispiness of the bacon. Like it's breakfast-gasmic, if that's such a thing. That's how I like to cook it.
I was going to say, you want some of that yolk to run into those hash browns, right?
Yeah. So it depends on who I'm cooking for. As long as the white is cooked with the whites on the egg, because the lid was able to cook it, then yeah, I'm totally fine with a little bit of run into the hash browns.
I'm a big fan of run. That's what I was going to ask you too, because a lot of times when you order this meal or you make this meal, you make toast to go with the eggs. But if you're going to put the eggs over the hash browns can kind of take the place of the toast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good move too, because I think at the end of the day, if I had to choose, I would rather have potatoes than bread. Just from a flavor standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
totally.
let me ask you this question. When you're out, say you're out at a restaurant, a diner, whatever, and they're serving breakfast and you're ordering it, what do you typically order breakfast wise when you're out?
Exactly what I just made.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I'll get like a sampler of different meats,
Mm-hmm.
bacon, sausage, and ham. But literally the way that I did it. Sometimes I tell the most diners extra crispy on the hash browns for them to get it how I like it.
Yep.
But this is it. I'll actually never have the bread, interestingly enough, because again, you mentioned like my weight loss journey. And again, in full transparency, I just did a video that I posted to my Facebook calling myself out because I kept the weight off amazingly for 3 years plus. And then I had a 2-week binge and I had no idea how much weight I was going to gain. But in 2 weeks, I gained 16 pounds.
Wow.
Which is wild. I had no
fast.
So fast. Like 16 pounds in 2 weeks. Like I was so fucking pissed. And
were you eating like a whole cake at a time?
I was eating pretty bad, but not. I just was eating nothing healthy. That was the thing too. It wasn't like I was eating healthy food and not healthy. A lot of carbs, a lot of cheese, a lot of frozen pizzas. Just this is the thing that I'm actually really excited about. I knew that I was doing this binge kind of, and I knew I was going to be doing this. And so I was indulging, let's say. The good news for me is it didn't taste that good. Like it didn't taste way better than like 5 years ago. Like I was eating a lot of the stuff was just my normal diet, you know? But I like real food now, like real potatoes, real bacon, real eggs, watermelon, a steak. I like real food and it doesn't make me feel yucky. And a lot of the stuff that I had 2 to 3 weeks leading up to starting 75 hard, sometimes just did not make me feel good. Like it's good to like, this is maybe a little bit TMI, but I told you how this smells really good and it does. Farting was horrible when I was eating bad food. And it was a good thing if if it was on a Zoom call, it's a good thing you couldn't smell because food for some reason does not make your farts smell good at all. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's got some digestive difficulties associated with it.
Yeah, I just noticed it. But anyway, I usually feel gas-free and very healthy just eating normal food.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I'm sure your family appreciates that.
Yeah, for real.
But yeah, I think that eating healthy. I struggle with that because like when I love to eat, I do like to eat healthy and feel good, but I also like food. And when you say like, because there's most people think that when you have food problems, it's because you're eating ice cream and cake and candy and fast food and all those things. That's really not the case for me. I just like to eat regular food, much like you said, but I like bread, I like pasta, I like those things, and that's where I get hung up, like so what I do, what helped me a lot is what's
Sorry,
that?
I think we're getting really on bacon, so I'm gonna start with eggs just so that those
go for it, man. But what's been very helpful for me, I'll just say this really quickly, is intermittent fasting.
Same.
That's really helped me a lot. I mean, so like my typical day is I won't eat anything until between 1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'll drink coffee in the morning with no sugar, no cream, just black coffee, and that's it. Then between 1 or 2 in the afternoon, depending on my schedule, I'll have lunch, and I try to go really carb light, protein heavy, lean protein if possible. And then later in the evening, I'll always have a protein shake to kind of curb my appetite in between lunch and dinner. And then dinner, I'll try to be the same: salad, lean protein. If I stick to that, I'm usually good. What messes me up are things like the 4th of July when I'm eating hot dogs and hamburgers and chips and Doritos and drinking some beers. That's what gets. But if that's only one day or one weekend, I can live with that.
Yeah. Intermittent fasting was a big thing that changed my world because my problem was having absolutely out of control cravings.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to make sure I do this right, so I'm going to put the eggs in. But having these out of control cravings I was like, if I could just have a little bit more control. And so I started intermittent fasting because it was a simple way for me I didn't even change what I was eating at first. I was just like, if I'm going to go, let's say 14 hours, not a big deal. 14 hours from my last meal to when I eat the next day. That just meant if I finished eating at 7 and I woke up at 7, I already went 12 hours. I did most of it. I just have to have enough willpower for 2 more hours. And then I can eat what I would normally eat. I did that, and that was that small win. So it helped me physiologically, but it was a mental thing too, to just have a little bit more control over my willpower. Because once I did that, then I could have a little bit more willpower over then choosing what I put in my body.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's something that I am not doing. What you may notice, it's very common to salt and pepper eggs. I'm not doing that. And the reason I'm not is just because I already seasoned the hash browns and I don't like it too crazy. So I'm just going to let that go. And I'm going to actually go peek down at this bacon because I think it was getting pretty close. So let's have a look at this. Oh man, I think if it's not, oh man, it is so close.
That looks pretty close to me.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna flip them.
Okay.
Just to let them cook on the other side for just a second. And then we'll see what that.
How's that bacon smell?
Oh my gosh.
That's a perk of bacon, in my opinion, is when you make bacon, typically that smell lingers for like a few hours at least. Like, so one of my favorite things to do is to make bacon, enjoy it, then go out and run errands and come back. And as soon as you open the door, that smell hits you again. And you're like, I made bacon earlier. That's right.
Totally happened to me yesterday.
I love it.
I'm going to try one of the pieces a little bit more.
See, I like a little bit of chewiness with my bacon. Now, I like it to have some crunch, but what a lot of places typically do is they make it so crispy that it just doesn't have the flavor. That crispy takes away from the fatty flavor. So there has to be a little bit it's got to be right in between. Crispy to the bite, but chewy to the chew.
It is right there.
That's my thing. Yep. Because you get that flavor, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull those out in like 2 minutes. I think really, really close.
I was watching you eat it and chew it, and I was thinking it looks pretty close. So how much bacon do you typically eat in one sitting?
The whole package.
That's good. I don't feel as guilty then.
I cook the whole package and I can't stop once I start.
Yeah. My puppy and I will kill it. Yep.
That's why I have to do rules for myself. I'm very black and white. And that's what I've also found. Since we're talking about discipline in food, what I have found that works for me that is very counterintuitive is having no gray area. And that doesn't mean don't cheat. Have black and white rules for your cheating. For example, when I have cheat meals, it had to be on Sunday, period. I could eat as much as I wanted. I could have alcohol, whatever. But it needed to be very, very clear. Otherwise, I would fall off. And with bacon, I couldn't do, 4 slices today and then 4 tomorrow. Like, now when so I have to give myself, like, I can eat a whole package, but tomorrow, I'll be like, did I have bacon yesterday? Yeah. Then I just have to wait one more day. It's not that hard. I just had it yesterday. I'm going to wait till tomorrow. No big deal.
What's the meal that happens the day in between this meal?
Usually something just as simple where it's just eggs, or I don't know if it's that big of a difference. I don't love it as much, but I'll cook like sausage. I'm just seeing if how we're doing. We're actually really close on the eggs already too. I think I'm gonna. In fact.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're done. So I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna put the eggs on the.
Don't second guess yourself. If it's there, it's there.
It's there. So I'm gonna. As you can see, the eggs look done. So
looking good.
The one thing I don't love about this pan is sometimes they get a little bit stuck. So I just need them to move around a little bit. Beautiful. They're moving around. So now I can.
So one of the things we had in the restaurant is, and why I asked this earlier in the show, is we had egg pans. So they were nonstick pans, smaller, about 8-inch pans, and they were only for eggs. And you didn't use them for anything else, and you only used rubber spatulas with them. That way it kept that nonstick surface really nice for your eggs.
Yeah.
You never had to worry about stickage.
Okay. Yeah. By the way, for anybody watching, if you ever do bacon in the pan, you got to put it in the oven. You got to do it in the oven.
Yeah, the thing with the pan with bacon too is, you have to do it low and slow again, but here's where it gets tricky because of the flame, depending on what kind of stove you have. Even if it's electric, you have uneven cooking areas. You have hot spots and cool spots. So you're constantly having to revolve the pan around the burner, move the bacon back and forth. Whereas if you put it in the oven, it's all even. You don't have to even worry. You can do other things. There's no splashing on your stove. It's the best way to do it.
Check it.
That's perfect.
It is so perfect.
Man.
I'm going to give myself maybe 3 or 4 on the plate.
Another thing with bacon, and maybe this is just from growing up, but one of my favorite things to this day, my mother used to make this when I was growing up, are bacon sandwiches. And very simple. You get a piece of bread. And these days I use Ezekiel bread. You put bacon on it, a squirt of ketchup, and it's it. That's it. And that makes me happy.
Or no?
What's that?
Did you put tomatoes on it, like slices of tomato?
You can, but I typically don't. I just use bacon and ketchup.
Okay, I'm going to bring you guys over to the table. And
let's go.
So that we can eat this. Just a second. Just a quick second. I'm going to put this over here.
Nice. That's a good looking meal.
Oh, dude.
Now, one of the things I will say too, while we're moving over there with you to the table, is I asked you the question about what you order at the diner, and I ordered a very similar thing. The one thing I do is much like you, is I get the combo of breakfast meats. I don't typically like ham with breakfast, so I usually don't do ham. I'll do bacon and sausage, eggs, hash browns, and then if it's like a Sunday or I'm giving myself a little bit of latitude, I'll order like a half a stack of pancakes. And that's like the complete experience.
I just had pancakes on the 4th of July for the first time in years.
Well, if you're ever in Pittsburgh, I'm going to take you. There's a little diner downtown. I'm going to take you to cash only, but it's my favorite breakfast. They have the best pancakes. Their pancakes are a cross between crepes and pancakes. So they're thinner, but the edges are really crispy. The center's like a pancake. And then you can get the whole experience of hash browns, bacon, eggs. It's like the perfect meal.
Does this look good or what?
That looks fantastic. I would be putting a little sriracha on that if I were you, right on the eggs, and just diving right in.
I'm gonna do a little sriracha and a little bit of salsa, just at least on one side.
Oh man, I like sriracha better than regular other hot sauces typically because it just has it has a better flavor to it. It's not just like heat in your face, right? It's like it has a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of heat, a little bit of. It's just good. It's just good eating.
Perfect yolk. I don't know if you can see this, but yeah, that just got done perfectly.
Oh man,
there was a little bit of run on there.
I love when things just work out, especially when they're on camera.
Yeah, we lucked out. I apologize in advance.
I think you lucked out.
I apologize in advance for any egg yolk I get in my beard because it happens sometimes. But
hey, that's what it's there for. I just wanted to gauge your reaction.
So good.
I love how you did the hash browns too. I think more people need to not be afraid of hash browns and to just do them that way. I think a lot of people get a little timid for whatever reason.
I was very discouraged with hash browns for years. I was like, how can I make them perfect? Sometimes they were good, sometimes they weren't. But once I learned to just not mess with it, and that just has the oh my God, this is really so good. And I enjoy, it's one of those meals that I just enjoy the heck out of it. It doesn't matter how many times I have it. I would do breakfast twice in the same day. I love it.
Oh, I would.
Gosh. And the verdict for $3.50 on the oven for the bacon. Yes.
Yep. That's low and slow. You have to have patience. That's the key. It's hard with bacon, but just having that little bit of patience pays off in the end.
So good.
It's one of my favorites. But while you're eating, let's talk a little bit. Your website, calvinwayman.com. People can go there. They can grab a copy of your book. They can see what you're up to. Now that speaking isn't on the table for the current moment with COVID, what's been keeping you busy in place of that?
So the one thing that's been an overarching theme or skill is, for me, for the past decade, is sales. So I know sales. I did a little stint where I got to help Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi with a high ticket product at the end of last year. That was fun. And just helping entrepreneurs with sales, whether it's, I prefer high ticket. So if they have like a $10,000 product or something like that, that's what I prefer. Let me just kind of give us different. So we have two different things.
Here, I can flip back. I'm just trying to get us an angle. There we go. Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. So helping entrepreneurs with their sales, seeing how their script is, seeing if we can increase the conversion just from the whole process from lead to actually closing.
So when you're working with Tony and Dean, and I know what you're talking about, I've seen that that program, and I think I watched a webinar about it. What's your involvement like at that stage? Do you incorporate with their team? Do you do like sales calls with them? Do you like what are you doing specifically?
So I actually went down to Scottsdale where the head office is.
Nice.
And so you saw the webinar. That was for a $2,000 product. They got like 20 to 25,000 customers from there with no upsell yet. So when I went there, it was to help put the script together and to get the first few sales for a $13,000 upsell. And so I'm looking at the script, I'm finding ways to tweak it, and I'm actually taking calls and fine-tuning it, taking it to a small team of salespeople until it's to the point where, using Dean's words, that the script sings. So that was my involvement. Dean would have been happy if it was like a 10 to 20% conversion, because it's a $13,000 price point. That's actually really decent. But we got it to like 40, 50%.
Wow.
And once it got to that point, it was like, sweet, good to go. And so now I'm doing the same thing with another client that has not as high ticket as I'd like to work with, because he has a $5,000 product. And he works in the relationship/men's category. So we're doing a launch right now and it's going well.
What's the key with high ticket? What separates the verbiage and the psychology from something lower, like a $5,000 and a $10,000 price point?
The key is using sales tactic language is posture, first of all. You cannot feel like that you are selling. Meaning, if you have to do any convincing, like you need to get this and here's why, you're probably doing it wrong. It should more feel like an interview to see if they are a good fit. It was not uncommon to, by the time that the end of the call before making the offer, that I said, okay, we want to invite you in. Where some people would end up crying, like, oh my gosh, are you serious? I get to be a part of this? Yeah, we think that you're ready and here's why we think you're ready. And then we still get into, it's a $13,000 investment. You're going to come out to the office and work with coaches that were trained by Dean and Tony to get your business up, and they're like stoked. So that's kind of the feel. It's like having a conversation that is like, I have a certain process I follow, like why here, why now, what's different, how important is this to you, what's your vision, what's your dream? And then one of the final questions that really puts it in that energy is, I try to make it feel like, usually if it's high ticket, it's very hands-on. So with Dean and Tony, their vision is to change the world, and they have to make sure it's the right people. Since we have a limited number of spots for this, I just would love to hear from you. If we were to invite you in, why do you feel you'd be worthy of it? And I know that sounds like a crazy question, but why are you worthy of our time, our investment to make it happen? And then they tell me why they think they are, why they're a good fit, that they're dedicated, that they're wanting to do it. And those are the people we want to help anyway, the people that are action takers. So those are some of the key takeaways. But again, no like I've done anything from a $7 thing over the phone to over 20 grand. And the higher ticket stuff, if it has to feel salesy, like it's not, you're doing it wrong.
It almost reminds me of, and I've been on both sides of this conversation before with being sold to and quote
Right.
unquote selling, but it reminds me almost of like the college application model where you're applying to a school, and if you get accepted, you're going to be spending either in student loans or up front for like 50 to 100, even more thousand, but you want to be accepted. And as soon as you're accepted, you're in without even thinking. They don't have to sell you. So it kind of reminds me of that kind of psychology.
The exact same psychology. So you don't get on a high ticket call without an application, right? So you're not cold calling high ticket. Somebody has to fill out an application. In Dean and Tony's case, they have this whole Facebook group of people that have, and if you know, think about the online space, the best place to sell is your current buyers. And when you have a buyers list of 20 to 25,000 people that have all paid 20 grand, that's a hot list. So Dean would just put in a Facebook Live, hey, we're doing some free strategy calls, and he would just do it, and they would have to rip it off in like 3 minutes because our calendar would be filled up for the week, and they would just do it that way for the sales people that are there. Another model that's similar is them watching some sort of webinar or training first that then goes to an application. That's what my client is doing right now.
Yeah, I was trained in that method. The Facebook ad to landing page to webinar to application to phone call. That was the way that I was trained. But that in conjunction with the Facebook group. But yeah, you're spot on that, it's easier to upsell to people who've already had an experience than it is to start someone fresh, I think, especially when you're in that high ticket game. And I see so many people that play and the other thing to me is when you're in the low ticket game and you're trying to push volume and you're just trying to push, number one, how transformative can the product be at that level? And number two, aside from the transformation factor, it's probably not even a transformation product. It's probably an information product. And the world doesn't need more information because you can go to Google at any time and get all the information you want. And it's all free. Yeah.
Amen.
I think the real value is in it's not in the information, it's in the transformation. And the difference between information and transformation is application.
Yep.
So if you can help someone apply something, because like, for instance, we were talking about eating healthier and that whole thing during this interview or this show. I could go to my Facebook feed right now. If I spent 5 minutes, I guarantee you I could find no less in 5 minutes than 5 different ways to lose weight, whether it be a new product, a new workout program, a new course, a new diet, whatever it may be, it's there. People are pushing it. Now, my question is, if it's so easy to find all those different ways to lose weight, why aren't more people at their goal weight? And it's not because they don't have the information. It's all there. It's because when it comes to applying the information, they've hit a challenge and fall short. Totally. So that's where you need that accountability and that coaching to help you when you hit that roadblock. And that ultimately is what leads to transformation, because most people, they know what to do. They just get stuck when it comes to doing it.
Yep. Yeah, you said something similar. I always say it's not about information, it's about implementation. Like taking the information and doing something with it. And when you have a group of people that are going through the exact same thing with you, like I'm hosting 30 other people that are doing 75 hard right now, just because I know it's going to keep me accountable, but also the people that are doing it, it's going to help them too. And I've also done high ticket. One of the best investments I ever made was paying someone 20 grand. I mean, it was the scariest thing ever, but you can damn well bet I took that very seriously because of putting 20 grand on. And that's actually one of the secrets, I think, you mentioned in my bio, when I became debt-free for the first time as an adult. It was a short time after, within 8 months of making that investment, because it just made me take things really seriously and grow my business where I wanted it to be. So yeah, I'm a big fan of high ticket.
Yeah. You have to put some skin in the game, right? I mean, I've had programs that I've paid $3,000-$4,000 for that I have gone through halfway, did half the work, didn't do it all. And But there was another program that I spent $10K for, much like you. And you better believe I did that thing front to back like 3 times. I was very intense and into it because when I got on that call, and here's another thing I like about when sales are done right. I got on the call, I went through the whole funnel of Facebook ad to webinar, and I kept seeing this thing pop up. So I'm like, I'm just going to go see what it is. But I went through it because I knew who the reputation of the person. I went through it to rip off the sales process. I was like, not to rip it off, but to learn what I could from how are they selling? What's their verbiage? What are they doing? So at the time I had a friend and I said, I'm going to put this on speakerphone and we're going to listen to this and we're going to take as many notes as we can. We're not buying anything, nothing.
You're
So
on the actual sales call?
What's that?
You're on the actual sales call with the people, or
Yes.
you're on this webinar?
I was on the sales call with the people. I listened to the webinar, then I was on the sales call, and I told it was my ex-girlfriend at the time. I said, we're not buying anything. Just going to listen. I'm going to take notes. You take notes. So we get 2 sets just in case we miss something. I just want to know what they're doing. So we get on the call. Someone we never talked to before, taking all these notes. An hour later, not only did I spend $10,000, but I didn't even really know what I spent it on. I go, what did I just get? Like, what is this? How do I even do this? I didn't even know what it was. But the questions, the thought process, what we talked about, and the dude was a cool dude. Fast forward now to about 3 years later, this guy that sold this to me, who I never met before, I talk to every single day now. And he's a good friend. He actually has done a lot of copywriting with me. I've worked with him on his podcast. He's a cool dude. And we never met before that call. So when sales are done right, not only can you have someone buying something at a 5-figure price range, but you can actually create a real relationship from that. I
totally love that.
And that's how sales should be done. Not like, let me twist your arm or let me quote unquote influence you to do what I want you to do.
That doesn't work. So that's what I'm working on right now, is actually my second book, which is on sales, more on not just sales, but how you can use sales to get the life that you want using sales principles. And that's one of them. I haven't exactly determined what I'm going to call this chapter, but it's one of the biggest hacks in sales. Instead of learning all of the tricks and the hacks and the NLP, if you can develop this ability to actually give a fuck about the person that you're talking to and focus on transformation, not just information, then you'll stand out like crazy. So
you should call the chapter Bacon, Eggs, and Hash Browns.
That sounds, if not talking about sales, that sounds like a good chapter just in general. Like
I'm just saying, if I was looking there somewhere, if I was looking through the table of contents and I saw that chapter, that's the first one I'd read. So
I need a fourth grade: bacon, eggs, hash browns, and something that just doesn't fit.
Podcast. Just kidding. This doesn't fit, but it was fun.
Bacon, eggs, hash browns, and $20,000.
$20,000. There you go. I'd be in. Those are all things I want right now. So I'd be okay with that. But Calvin, thank you so much for being here. I loved everything you made. It was awesome. I'm super hungry. I had bacon, like I said yesterday, so I'm gonna have to go make some bacon tomorrow. But calvinwayman.com is where people can go find you, grab a copy of your book, see what you're up to, all that fun stuff. And we have episodes that we did for the podcast, the Conversation Guy podcast, coming real soon. So people will see those dropping as well. Thank you, my friend. This has been so much fun. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. Hopefully we made some people hungry for food and then for life as well. Thank you so much.
You made me hungry. So that's a winner there. But thank you so much. I want to remind everyone, if you're watching this, check out the podcast. This episode will be dropping there again soon. And rate and review our podcast. If you hear this and you like what you hear, it really means a lot to us. And make sure you follow us all across Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, so that you never miss a live stream or cooking and conversation. So thanks, everyone. And we'll have another cooking and conversation coming your way real soon.